Right. And I love
That's instead of self-defense or offense,
Right.
that's the methodology idea. The name of my system is Counterpoint Tactical System.
Right.
Counterpoint, that point, when I came up with that, it's like counterpoint, is that even a word? I looked it up.
It is now.
It's actually a music term where
Oh,
two
what?
melodies run parallel to one another, but fit.
Right.
You know, like some rock bands like the Allman Brothers, Dwayne Allman, and Dickie Betts, they always had this interplay between their guitars
Right.
going at the same time. That's what counterpoint is, right? So it's a music term, but it also has this really old I looked it up and found some really old definitions of it, and it had to do with pugilism.
Well, there you go.
So it's like, and for me, it was like within a striking pattern or a technique, everything can be countered. Anything can be countered.
Right, of course.
But it's knowing the timing to do that counter. So one movement, as a person goes through that movement, you might be able to counter it 3 ways.
Right.
But if you're too late, the first way's gone. If you're too late, the second way's gone, right? And then you only have the third way maybe, right? So it's that point in time where you can counter and recounter. And normally counters have this thing where it's based on timing, but the more you practice countering, because a lot of people tell, oh, you can't do that, that's too fast, you'll never be able to do that. Okay, you keep saying that, and you still can't do it, but I'm going to practice it and
Right.
be able to do that.
You know how I explain that, because I have a very similar thing. I always tell everybody everything is counterable and everything is not counterable given time.
Right.
Right? You go early, on time, late, but you can do it. Like everything is counterable and everything's not counterable given the time. Whether I take time from you or I get extra time from me in the process, it's because of that time thing that works.
Yeah.
So I like that.
In my conversation with Kakoi, going back to my first story where we drove to Chico from San Jose to the seminar, we're talking, and I'm like, Grandmaster Kakoi, what is most important about martial arts? And he says that the capacity or ability to counter. And Diane turned to him and says, well, he teaches a system called counterpoint, and that's his thing. His countering.
bread and butter.
That's the counter fighter, right? And I think that helped us get along
To get
so
even
good.
better.
And then I realized, oh well, he's just about 80 years ahead of me. He's a couple light years ahead of me.
You know, when
the
you
countering
saw
thing.
him near, when he was near his passing, the guy looked like 100-something years old, but he was still able to move almost to the day.
Even in a wheelchair.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was just
Yeah.
amazing.
But still at 93, he was still up walking around
Yeah.
and going places.
Wow.
And actually, some people put up video of me sparring with him, and people were making comments, and somebody misused his name and like misspelled his name like McCoy, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, he's the real McCoy. But it's like, yeah, but he's not going to have that stick everywhere he goes. So I'm like, excuse me, but the man walks with a 3-foot-long
Cane, yeah.
cane in his hand everywhere he goes.
So
he
he
walks
has-
with that
he will have
cane.
that stick.
He has that stick, and you're in trouble if you get
Yeah.
on the business end of the stick.
You know, that's funny, because you're right. Everybody does says, you're hardly ever going to fight with a stick. Especially as younger people, right? And for the most part, it's true. But a lot of people who say that don't realize that the stick isn't the weapon.
That's not the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's
not about the
point.
stick.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So I train with this stick every day, pretty
Right.
much, but I don't carry a stick around.
Nope.
But that's not the point. The point is what the stick training does for you is it conditions your body, for all the other empty hand things you do. But at the same time, if you don't understand targeting, how to generate power, and hit and basically destroy the human body with an impact weapon, you can't defend against it. Right? So in training with the stick all the time, I have a much better chance of doing an unarmed defense against a person that has a impact weapon in their
Right.
head. Right.
Because you're so accustomed to playing with that
Right.
already, it doesn't
Right.
scare you the way it used to.
No.
There's no stick. Grab the hand.
Right.
That's
Right.
our mentality. There is no stick.
Mine is like, oh, he's got a stick. I want that stick. I'm going to take your stick. Say, go ahead and hand it to me
And
because I'm
I
going to take
think
it.
on that point we should reset and actually show some of counterpoint.
Okay,
Yeah, we'd love to do that.
would be
You're up
great.
for that?
Yeah.
sure.
Outstanding.
Sure.
Awesome.
Dude,
So folks,
we'll be right back. We're going to
when
reset
we
here.
reset.
All right, folks, we're back here with Master Zach Whitson.
Whitson.
It's me again. What can I do?
Yeah.
Hey, before we get started, is there anybody you want to talk about or your system that you do? Because I know you do a lot of seminar stuff.
I do.
You know, we've been dying to get out there, but it's hard to get back east where you're at.
So my system's called Counterpoint Tactical System. It's a combination of various disciplines, one of them being Kempo, Ed Parker Kempo, American Kempo. I've done that for a long, long time. I still practice Kempo every day. It's a big part of my training, but at this point I basically use a lot of ingenuity and imagination to work it my own way.
So
Right.
you come up with your own system somewhat then?
Right,
Is that-
right. That's right.
awesome.
So it's an
Well,
amalgamation
body,
of,
Yeah.
of several different disciplines.
It's his evolution.
So I have the saying, every time the range changes or the weapon changes, so does the discipline. So Kempo had some really good close quarter striking patterns, really good striking patterns. In fact, I can get around Filipino groups and show them what I'm doing as what I call Kempo counterpoint, and they think it's FMA.
Right, because
So
it looks
it
so
looks
familiar
like
to me.
that, right? And so the Panantukan that I've learned, I use as my entries. The trapping that I learned from Kakoi,
Right.
I use for trapping. And then when I get close quarter, if it's a striking pattern I want to do at that point, I use Kempo.
Wow.
And then, I have a Umag and a catch wrestling background, so that turns into throws and takedowns and disarms because now we're this close,
Now
right?
you're able to
We're
grab the full
that close, right? And then with so if you just talk single stick, all my longer range stick work in sparring is what I call Pikiti Largo, or Largo Pikiti, which is long range Pikiti Terja type of ideas, where you're striking the hands and arms and being in range just enough to hit the arms, the weapon hand, or the body, and then be back out.
Right.
And then when I bridge to get in close, then I default right to the Kakoi Dose Paras because they're in your face, right? If I lose that distance, so I'm working in, and they try and make space between me and them, then I go back to Pikiti Largo. So that's a good example of the two stick systems. For knife training, it's all Pikiti.
Huh.
There's a very interesting thing. It's like, the way I see it, Kakoi's stick training was very close. The way he moved and the tightness of it and the range of it was very much like the Pikiti knife work. So I felt like Kakoi's stick work was closer to the Pikiti Terja knife work than the Pikiti Terja stick work was to their own knife work.
Wow.
That's what I felt.
That's crazy.
Right. So there's a connection there, but my knife training is all straight up Pikiti Terja, with a little Kakoi influence. On it.
Of course.
Hey,
The tactics.
with him, I felt like Kakoi was, he started at, 5 or 6 years old with his brother in Hawaii, and he trained in what was San Miguel, which was Olisi Burao or the Spotted Daga kind of training, the San Miguel, and he was with him for like 25 years or whatever. He trained with him right up to World War II kind of thing, and then I think afterwards. So he was really good with the knife. And being a knife maker, we were in Miami doing a seminar weekend with him, and I made this knife. It was like a dirk, a Spanish dirk. It was about this long. And it's a custom-made knife, and he picks it up and looks at it and really studies it like a knife maker would. Most knife makers, you hand them a knife, a custom knife, and they're going to study what you did. And I handed it to him, and he studied it like a knife maker. And then he just puts it in his hand, and he starts feeling it. It was a little tip heavy, and he's like snapping his wrist, and then then he just breaks into like moving it's like, and I'm like, step back a step. Holy cow. Holy cow. It's like he's beating me up with the stick so much, I don't even want to be in the same room with the knife.
Nope, that has a blade on it. I'm good.
Right.
No, I remember the last time you were here, you guys were talking all kinds of great stories. And there's one story that we always bring up in our class, because people are always amazed at it, and he goes, how stupid is that? That could never happen. You were talking about you guys were camping somewhere, and one of your buddies had a knife or whatever it was, and jabbed himself in the leg. Tell that story, because people never believe me when I say it, because it's like, how do you even stab yourself with a knife like that?
Okay. So I was living in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was running classes during the week in a garage at my house. On certain nights it was the Kimple guys, on other nights it was the Pakiti guys. So I was teaching both systems at the same time with two different groups of people. One guy was a prison guard, and he had kind of grown up. At 18 he was a prison guard, he'd grown up in a penitentiary really. You know, and he would bring a duffel bag over to the house with guns, knives, live ammo, swords, all this stuff. He had this collection of all these weapons. He'd bring a big army duffel bag and lay them out, and we would play with them and stuff. So they show up for their class and knock on the kitchen door from the garage, and I open up, hey guys, I'm putting my shoes on, I'll be right out. And I closed the door and I sat down and put on my training shoes. And before I got them tied up, knock on the door, I'm gonna open up, it's like, we got to go to the hospital. He just stabbed himself.
This guy who owns all the weapons.
So this is what he was doing. So in Tergia with a stick, you would index. So indexing for me is where, like, if I'm using my thumb, I might just use my thumb, like hold a weapon in my hand, and I know,
So you know,
where the blade is and the distance from my body, and I can move this around and hide it, that kind of thing, right? And so that's indexing. So with the stick, they would index here off of the leg, pull this, so you have full range of motion, so you can do, instead of going like this, your hand's actually way back here. But you have a stick, it won't stab you, and then they would lift off of this back leg with a gastrocnemius muscle, hamstring group, your gluteal muscles, and lift. So you don't pull your foot up off the floor, but you push and lift like this for that hit.
Right.
So that's what I've been teaching, right? With a single stick on the thrust, you know, sink down and come up
28.
like this. It was a 31-inch stick, right? So it's real long. And so one guy, he got the knife from the guy that has all the knives, and they were used to doing this. So he has like a 12-inch Bowie knife, and he puts it back there and goes, and he's just standing there, it's like, he looks up to his buddy, Jeff, I believe I just stabbed myself. And he's standing there with this, it was a cold steel Trailmaster kind of knife.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he
Oh
just
my God.
sinks it, and he's sitting there like this, and it's like, oh shit. It's like, and he said he didn't really feel it until he pulled the blade out, and then it was,
Jesus
he said it
Christ.
was fire. And then it's like blood in his shoe in 2 seconds, there's blood everywhere. I'm like,
Why'd he pull it out?
take him to the hospital. So I lived really close to this hospital, big hospital.
With good reason.
They drove him over to the emergency room, and goes, as soon as they get an emergency room, it's like, we got to call the police. This is a stabbing. So they call the police, and the other guy, being a prison guard, he wasn't the one that got stabbed. He's like, he had ID and stuff, and he could talk to him and smooth it over, and nobody got arrested. But you know,
Would they arrest him for stabbing himself?
right? But they got to, when the
They still
hospital
gotta-
sees it as a
they gotta
stabbing.
report it, yeah.
Who stabbed you?
Right.
Oh, you stabbed yourself? Really?
Yeah, he stabbed him. He fell on his knife.
So yeah.
Oh, right. How do you schedule your seminars in case somebody would love to, we have a...
Well, I'm on Facebook, and I have a website, Tactical Martial Arts website. Put my name and do a Google search, and you'll find me.
Cool.
And then schedule.
Yeah.
I really want to teach people that are interested in learning the system. People that, a lot of people come to you and just dabble, and they'll come and get in
They'll
your
come back
class or
after.
seminars and then go out and put themselves on YouTube doing it.
Yeah.
And you know they got it from you, and
Right.
they don't ever say that.
Right.
I'd read, yeah. There's a lot of people that just want to collect martial arts.
Yeah,
You know,
we
get black
always
belts
frown
and
on
move
those
on.
people. We always badmouth those people who go there. Say, oh, I trained with Leo Guy. I trained with Danny and Southern.
At one
fucking day,
seminar,
you jackass. You didn't train under them. You just went to a seminar and
Right.
picked up whatever you could. You jackass.
So I'd like to talk about
Alright, so let me get out of the way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you like beat him up. If you want to put a knot on his head, one or two, by all means, please do.
My head's lumpy
I'll try
enough,
not
thank
to.
you.
Okay, I'll try not. Let me get out of the way.
So longer range, little longer range, outer range. So we're outer range, outer range. So you're back. So we can't even touch sticks. Give me your right leg, right lead, right. Put your stick out. Back up a little bit more. We are out of range, right? So this is outer range, right? As soon as we can touch, this is the beginning of long range. This exists all the way up to where I can touch your body. This is the beginning of middle range. Middle range exists until I can put my puño or my fist on your chest. That's the beginning of close quarter or close range.
Oh, the beginning's not
The
even.
beginning. So this is where it is. Right, so spin around. Right, so feet on one. Right, so if I come in here, that's close range. Then the last thing is when we slam on the ground.
You didn't see his foot on my foot, so
Because I know
I wasn't gonna get any.
that's a skill actually that was a natural skill for me as a
Really?
young guy. I would invite, when I was a deep sea diver, I would invite my diver friends over to my backyard and we'd put on Everlast boxing gloves and spar. And I would accidentally step on everybody's foot. When I step forward for a jab, I'd get their foot.
Dirty
and then
boxer.
they're like,
Dirty
like
boxing.
this. And it was a habit. It's like, I got to stop stepping on people's feet, you know. And then I got the Pikiti Tertia, and they gun for your feet.
Yeah, they do.
In fact, forward triangle, you go to step on my foot, that's reverse triangle, right?
To get
so
and into
right, so
the-
slow motion with you're going to step on my foot with, give me the right lead for the camera. So as he does that, I'm going to pull this out and take off. That's the counter for getting out of people always stepping on their feet on purpose, right? So back to long range. So Pikiti Tertia, what I call Pikiti Largo, is really gunning for the weapon hand. So it's like a lot of fakes to pick that up. One thing about Pikiti Tertia is they keep the stick really close. So I only do these big extensions to get the counter, the bait, to bait. So that would be a good example of this coming in and just making this maneuver. Now, you see I can stay at
So you
long
were-
range the whole time.
So you were already introduced to the idea of pronating the wrist to get.
Actually, that's almost like a floretta in a way.
Okay.
Right. So it comes back. So it's like there's this, use this term offensive, defensive, where you defend, offense, and then back to defense, offense. Right. So as he's coming in to take the weapon, because if you hit that,
Oh yeah. If I
got a
smack
bone
his
popping
arm,
out my
yeah.
skin, and I'm not holding on to a stick anymore. See that maneuver? It's just out, and now I'm already here to get this hit.
Yeah. Pikiti's
Where
good on
where
picking.
Pikiti
Yeah.
would go like this and then maybe step back. So now you swung that one, and I have that
Take
shot.
that hand.
Right. Or come back again, and then take that one. Right. So now we're at middle range.
Right.
Right. Because if that wasn't there, move your arm. Right. So now I just bridged middle range. So one idea would be, let's say I fake, you go to hit this, and I come out and don't move. Like that, in the head, pop. Like that. You come back at me, well, you make this angle like that, but do it slow. Pop. The thing with Pikiti, they'll keep their hand really close and tight to their body like this. So they're not making that extension. So they don't put their hand in the striking zone. A lot of people come up and feed in here all the time, and it's like, right, you got it, right? So your hands are way down there, out of the striking zone, right? So I call this Contrada's platform.
Okay.
So I might fake, draw that forehand shot, step out and reverse triangle, wait a minute, because it's going to happen fast, and that would be my follow. Throw it like this. And now when the person comes back, have the elbow, forearm right up to the fist, or just as a block to the stick, right? And now I have the inside track. Boom, and I want to start zoning away from that stick. So it would be something like this. Fake, hit, right? And now I'm back out of range, and again, now you come in, boom, and I want to close. Now we're back to this. So once I've bridged this range, let's say you throw a punch, boom, and now we're in a close quarter kind of situation that now I can do those same parts. So I talked about earlier, as the range changes, so there's discipline. So when I'm out here, it's all the key towards your footwork, like this staying at range, trying to get in, get out, and hit and back in, faking and getting on angles.
So, I noticed something about the key touch, or at least the way that you're showing it, is that once you get into a range and you understand you're in the range, you actually change it just by shifting.
Yeah, that's a lot of my Tai Chi training.
Oh, really?
Sword, right.
Huh.
So with the big sword in Tai Chi,
Yeah.
their power source is linear like this, so their push is from here. They're not going to get like this and try to push you, but they push. Stick down for a second. Come here. Come here. So we get here. See how I have this vertical?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Right. So that's a Bagua Tai Chi footwork that I have blended with forward, reverse triangle, side stepping.
Because that really, the range changes so much from this angle. I feel like I have you, but you're just inches away.
Right.
But you're still, so all you have to do is
Right. So with a key footwork, the idea is, just being able to come in range and out of range, so with your forward triangle, where you're doing stuff like this, and getting that foot out and coming back in. So this is a basic drill, but it's teaching you to go, get in and hit. And now you're back out again. Now it comes back at you, boom,
and there's a foot again.
So when I bridge that, so you feed, and now I'm here.
Now all
There's
the
a close range. Right. So it would go, feet on one, passing, just pass, leave that out, slow it down, relax it a whole lot. The cock always touch was like this.
Yeah, Ron Liu did something like that, and I could barely feel his touch until he did what he wanted to.
So they're doing like this. Very toppy on, as Kibi tears just suck on their bow, but very light touch. Very light touch. High. Feed, this is natural motion, forehand parry. Right, you can redirect that and come in here and bring it low. Right, you got to parry on the high zone. Don't go in there. That's a big no. A big no. Don't ever be right there. I want you to always be right there. There's my snap right there. Right, so this is forehand pass. Don't bring that underneath like you did.
Okay.
Do that puño
Here.
from underneath.
Right.
From right there, do it again with this.
That's why.
So my recommendation is do your puño from here, outside. So now do it from outside, so that's outside, right, from out here, right. I come in and trap that, you can still hit from underneath.
Oh.
Right, but if I get in here and you jam that down, just jam it, I'm tied up, right? But if I go here,
Feel
so
like that.
I can bring it here and go for the hit. If you try and stop it or tie it up, I'm out. And this is the one I was talking about earlier. Ooh. This is one thing Paco used to do a lot. And Grandmaster John Mack, he was, when I was in Cebu, Paco would come out and always train us, and I get to spar with him. But running my classes on a daily basis when I was there was Grandmaster John Mack. And one thing, he really got down Kakoi's way of moving. So his forehand horizontal is here, like crossing the center line way over here. So he's not going to go like this, but here. He's trying to get that hand to chase.
Oh.
Right. And the more you're extending on that hand, easier it is to get. And another one, feet on one, go up to my hand. Right? So there's four, they use a lot of perfect horizontal shots like
Okay,
this.
so it's not
To
even
make that
circular,
live
yeah.
hand reach.
So-
And here. So he called those linear. Right?
Yeah, we call
So
those
now,
like 3.
if he would love to stick this, what do you see?
Just
My knees?
barely.
Right? So
see
now
this.
if your hand's gonna chase
Right.
this, it's out here, right? And it's just gonna power my next move. If
Or
I'm
hit
here
myself.
and I'm getting you to overextend, I can come here, tie this up, and now I'm just waiting for that stick to come back. Boom, boom. All right.
Hold on, let me catch my feet.
Right. So they work from this range. That's the pronating shots. Diagonal down, diagonal up, over top. So he did this thing where his hand would travel
Yeah.
right like that.
I've only seen that once before in some
Like
Indian
it's
technique.
heat
Yeah.
seeking or something like it. It just goes.
Let me go
you know,
around everything.
right. I was sparring with him once in New Jersey, and we get to this position, talkie on, and
Yeah.
I put my hand in there, and he so that my hand was about like this. Zach, you've already made your first mistake. I'm like, what?
Right in the face.
This is one thing I like to show people, especially from other martial arts. So Doc Punya drill where you feed thrust on the low line, do this. Cockaway sees this at close quarter, he'd start laughing and screaming, no, you can do that at long range, but at close quarter you can't, because you can retract this and jam with that one and come right back up on the high line, and I can't answer, right? I'm stuck. So don't ever be there. So when this comes in, he would push as hard as you want, right? So all your power is at the tip, push all you want. It takes no power to get rid of that thing. Right? So he was never, right? Sagang Labo. So a lot of guys go in here, and go down there, and go down there. We were sitting watching video at his daughter's house in New Jersey, and he had never seen YouTube. So I brought a laptop, and there was a bunch of older Filipino guys that were in his age, and they had put some video up, and I wanted him to, because I'm thinking he's going to know them, I want him to see them, right? And one particular person, I have video of them, and he's sitting in that position, and he's laughing, and he goes, I stopped doing that in 1975. I'm like, that's the year I graduated from high school, right? And he'd see something else, it's like, oh my God, I stopped doing that in 1957. I'm like, that's the year I was born. Right? But another one is here.
Right.
Don't ever be there.
Right.
Because all you have to do is snap that, and that's going to come through, and I'm going to be missing an eye. Right? So you can't go in there. So it's here.
Always
You
pass
can
it.
go here. Right? If I get stuck here, I'm out quick. Right? Baiting this,
Right.
because I want that hand to mess with me. Right? So stuff like that. So this was one. Don't ever do this. Right? This was two. Don't ever do this like this. Right? So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, softer.
Oh my God.
See what that? Another thing I do a lot is this. You feel that? So this,
Wait.
this means you just got punched with a vertical fist right in your eye or your nose, right? So
I
that
was waiting for that.
so this is the touch I'm talking about, where you can spar all the time.
Still.
You gotta do something about that.
Right. The moment I try to move this hand.
Right. So, this is the other one they would do. They would go in here and they put their hand on top, or check the elbow with get on the side. So a lot of people come in on Sagang Labo, you put your hand in there where I told you not to, and they put their hand here.
Yeah, and then they go here.
Right, but reverse it, go back. Now there's your what's to my lower body. Right. And then one counter was to drop this down,
Right.
which you can't do that. Right? So the three no-nos were low thrust, this position, right? High position here.
Yeah, I
right?
like how you also
And
hit
then
my elbow
this
on the way.
position here. I do this with knife because there's no tick.
Right.
Unless it's a really,
Really
long
long
knife,
boot, yeah.
and then I got to worry about that. So Kakoi's here. Do it with tick. Right. And I'm just, my pinky finger's holding your thumbnail.
Yeah, I'm really trying to.
Right. 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 So those were the three no-nos. So I tell them, oh, let's do this drill. You know, boom, and they start doing this, and they come down and do all that, and get their hand in there,
Right.
Sagong will bow back to here. And then from there, it's just a whole lot of taking their stick and hitting. You know, I come in there, and they go,
Right.
how'd
That.
you never do this? Right? Or I just, boom, and then you feed.
Because the harder I touch, the easier it is for you to. You figure by now it's not resisting.
So, and the thing that the Separas guys do is that I like a lot is their striking patterns into their disarms. So they might catch you like this and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they have a 4 count pattern maybe, and number 5 is the disarm all the time.
Okay.
Right? So they get really good at doing these striking patterns. And then they do the disarm.
Just in case.
You can see that there's a certain amount of control.
Oh, yeah,
certain amount of
yeah, yeah.
Speed and not breaking you down.
Yeah.
You know, so we can.
No, I love the amount of control because you can really just.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're.
Right, right. The thing is getting it so it's soft like that.
I love how he looks away as he does it. Okay, can I be done getting beat up now? I think we've shown it enough.
I didn't want to stop because I seen you get the shit beat out of you. It's just so much fun to see you on your ass.
The last time I was here, I was training with your brother Dan.
Right.
And you're like, I love to see when Dan gets beat up.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe
Folks,
get
this
together.
was such a treat. Thank you so much for coming out and even thinking of us that you're. What were you doing down here? Were you doing a seminar? Or?
My wife's nephew's 8th grade graduation.
8th grade graduation.
8th grade graduation. So we went to that, and then, you know, friends all over the place
Right.
here. So we went and saw our martial arts buddies and family. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to.
We went up to Tahoe.
We're gonna tell
couple
Ron
days.
Lou to watch this episode because he'll get a kick out of
Yeah.
it. I'm sure it'll bring a smile to his
Yeah,
face.
yeah.
You know. He spoke highly of all of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, we called him the core group. That group that was in.
Yeah, he was
San
telling
Jose.
us like what 8 years or something like that. But it's nonstop. Just he goes, yeah, we were never really training. We were all just always sparring.
Well, because they asked him, like, what do you
Yeah.
guys want to learn? He's like, well, we don't know any of that stuff. How about we just spar?
Yeah.
So when they go to seminars, like, you guys teach them this part, and it's like, but Manan, you never taught us that.
Normally, in a seminar, he had a pattern he used where he would teach some basics. He would teach some striking patterns, some disarms, and a lot of times we'd do pinky drills,
Right.
double stick drills. We would do that. But when you train with him on a daily basis, the interesting thing about him, he'd already be on the mat training. He walks up, sits in a chair, and I never saw him train without doing a seated meditation, where he sits, hands on his knees. He does a breathing thing he learned from judo and aikido guys he trained with from Japan after World War II. So he always had that. And then we would already be working on, you know, curriculum. And then after a certain amount of time of that, it's like, okay, we spar. And then he would do this thing where he would sit and watch. And then he would do this with me all the time. It's like, Zach, go spar with Choi, you know, and I would go spar with him, and then a few minutes later, so he's calling people out to go spar
With
with.
somebody.
Yeah, he is appointing you people to
Yeah.
spar. Go spar with Danny. You can go, you know, and it's like, you know, and then he would get up and walk out onto the mat like this. This is what he would do. He'd do this.
And then he just go right there in front of your face. Jeez, that's
It
pretty.
seemed like you
That's
never
scary
get
as-
past this
Yeah,
point.
that's scary as hell.
It's like somebody walking up putting a gun to your face.
Right. Right. So it was.
That's too
It was
funny.
really sparring intensive, and that's what the San Jose group experienced. Was a
Yeah.
whole, so they were really good fighters.
Yeah. Oh well.
You know, and they
but-
had a lot of talent coming into it.
Yeah,
They're all
already.
kung fu and Kajikimbo
Oh, yeah.
guys
Yeah.
from one.
Ron Liu was talking about that. We were like, "What? You really just?" Because that's all we ever really did was spar.
Yeah, I was
there
born
really
in
wasn't
the
a
wrong
lot
era.
of curriculum. We
Right.
said, "No, we just sparred."
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, back to my story when we took Kakoi from San Jose to Chico.
Right.
The next day, you know, I told Kakoi I'm getting on a plane and flying back to the East Coast. He knew that, but he told Diane, you know, as we dropped him off at the house, okay, Diane, now you can train with me. Come to Ron Liu's school on Tuesday or whatever. so she goes to the class, and I can't wait to call her up after the class and
Yeah.
say, what'd they do? And she says, we just sparred, and all I'm trying to do is stay alive.
By the way, folks, his wife is also an accomplished martial artist, right? Let's talk
Yeah.
about that a bit.
Yeah.
Because that's something we
Diane.
didn't, because she's going to be mad that you didn't mention her at all.
She started early on, like 73, about the same timeline I did.
Right.
She ended up in LA and going to college, and she at some point started training at the Santa Monica School, Parker Second School, and then was lifetime Kempoist, and then switched to Filipino martial arts as far as her main emphasis. And she was the lone female in that class in
With
San
all those
Jose with
guys,
that
right.
core group.
What?
Wow, that's
Right,
crazy.
right, and she was convinced they were trying to kill her or run her off, which they were. They were.
They're trying to scare her out. We
No,
don't
this
want women in
this
here.
is- I hope they don't get pissed off at me. But the story was, June Cultiverio was the top guy, basically. And he had been to Cebu and met Kakoi and been to Kakoi's gym there. So he comes back and runs into him out and about and says, hey, come over to my gym on whatever night. Kakoi Kanye, we've got him there. And he's like, no, you don't. He lives in Cebu. And it's like, no, he's here in San Jose, and he's coming to my school.
Right.
And he's like, well, who's there? It's like, oh, me and so and a bunch of beginners. It's like, no, I don't want to train with beginners.
Right.
It's like they kept bugging him to come train with, because they knew they needed junior skill.
Right.
Because
From everybody
the
up,
more
right.
everybody's skill jumps whenever as skill grows. Right.
Right.
It's in a group the skill grows. Right. It's like. Did you get rid of the beginners? No. And so it's like, there was a guy there, Ted Sotelo, and it's like,
Ted.
Yeah, we hear about him all the time.
and they're like, it's like, you get rid of the beginners and I'll come. And so they systematically got rid of all the beginners, just like those straws, like bringing it, right? And it's like one by one they drop off, and it's like,
So
Junior,
Yeah, they're all gone.
they're gone. So Diane steps. So they'd had probably a couple years of freedom with
Just them, yeah.
that core group of guys, and then she comes over there and steps into what she doesn't know she's
Right.
stepping in. But she's a lifetime martial artist, so you're not running her
Yeah,
off.
you're not gonna.
So
Especially Ed Parker? No.
Yeah.
He trained.
That's too
running
funny.
Yeah.
There you go, Dan. We got a plug-in for you.
Yes, we did. But
Didn't want him to leave you
This
out.
has been a great conversation. Thank you again for joining us, having this
Thank
conversation
you.
with us. That was
Zach,
awesome.
oh my
That
God,
was-
really, thank you so much for your time and generosity.
That made our year.
Dude, oh my God, this has just been a treat. Like I said, when I've got his call, hey Rick, really?
Yeah, I know. You contacted me right away.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this.
Look at this message, right? It's been a
Great
great
call.
Anything you want
Oh,
to
yeah.
plug?
Any last-
Any upcoming seminars you got going on?
We've got a Kimpo event in New York State here in a few weeks out. John Busto's running it. He's one of my students in CTS, and he's also my catch wrestling instructor. So they're going to have a big international event with people coming all over. I'll be presenting there. And then they have this China Open. It's a big U.S. Tournament in the Washington, D.C. area. It's actually in Maryland, but it's a big tournament, and we're going to do a Filipino martial arts demonstration there. Me and a couple of my guys, and then Carlos Patalinghug, whose dad was connected to Kakoi, their family. He's going to have his group there, and it's going to be filmed on
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, no.
ESPN.
Wow, ESPN.
Well, that one's going to be in Washington. So we got New York, Washington, then I'll be in Pittsburgh into July for a seminar, and then Myrtle Beach, and I train with my Tai Chi teacher early August, and then the Washington D.C. event, and then I get ready for my camp. I have a
Right.
annual
Oh, that's
camp,
right.
Iron Mountain Camp.
Yes.
It's an instructor candidate training camp.
That's awesome.
Um,
You gonna go to the next gathering? They finally brought it back to Sacramento. they said.
I know it's so close to my event, I can't. I think Diane's going to have
that'll
time
be
to
good.
go.
That'll be good.
Right,
Yeah, we'd love
because
to see
my
it.
event's first week of October, and that event's in September, and I'm running around
We'll
trying
interview
to
her
type
then.
loose ends.
Yeah. Can you let her know that she's up next?
She's up next.
If you can talk her into it,
So
good luck.
folks, it's been an awesome episode
Awesome,
of Collie
awesome.
Conversation with me, Rick,
And me, Naeem.
and this awesome
Zach.
man,
Whitson.
You got it.
Boom.
You know,
I had to get it at least once.
There you go. Thank you so much.
And 3,
Three,
2, 1, cut!